The Pokemon market is moving quick, and 151 singles are the ones that are actually taking a hit. Though before I reveal those cards, I'm actually gifting this Heracross illustration rare to one subscriber. Now to know if you won, if I do reply to your comment with this Mega Medichan emoji, then well done, this card is yours. Though as I said, the movement is getting quite strong, and Pokemon 151 is taking a bit of a price tumble, and that's a little bit unique. Pokemon 151 is everyone's favorite set, and then everyone says that Pokemon 151 cannot do anything wrong, though it seems that there is a bit of a price correction taking place with some of these singles. Check this out. All right, so the first one that we want to talk about is the Charizard from Pokemon 151. One of the biggest kind of early chase cards of the Scarlet and Violet era, was very, very much in demand. And there is a little bit of a debate on this card, I suppose, because some people really, really like the Charizard artwork. Some people are not that big of a fan. I know that there's been obviously, Charizard has a massive fan base, right? When you got a Pokemon that's that popular and so many people love it, and there's just so many fans around Charizard, there's going to be a lot of people who have, opinions on certain cards. This Charizard, to me, I actually do think the artwork's cool. But then again, we've had so many different kind of iterations of Charizard. We've had Paldean Fates, we've had Pokemon 151, we've got the new Mega Charizard X, right? That's an incredible artwork. Then we've also had Brilliant Stars Charizard, the Hyper Rare, the Gigantamax. We've had so many different artworks, Obsidian Flames, right? There's been so many different styles of Charizard. And this one has, some people think, they're not that big of a fan of it. Some people are. Considering this is the top chase card from Pokemon 151, pretty interesting tumble right now. So what's selling for around $307 in September, okay? And that's gone down pretty steadily, selling for $233 US, which to me is definitely not exactly a cheap Pokemon card, but if you were looking to buy this card, if something drops, $70 from its high point, that's a fair bit of a price tumble. So I think, collectors are definitely thinking whether or not they're going to be adding this, whether or not you should be adding this to your collection. It depends where, everything is kind of dependent on your situation, whether you like this card, whether you want it in your collection, and whether or not, you got the budget to afford that. You got to remember, $233 is still pretty expensive for one Pokemon card. There is also another truth about this card. It's very hard to get a PSA 10. It's got like a 35% chance to come back as a PSA 10, which is pretty low. That, like, for grading standards, the Scarlet and Violet era has all been like, 35% to 45% chances to get PSA 10s. Sword and Shield era was completely different. Most Sword and Shield era cards have like an over 70% chance to get PSA 10s. That is something to consider. If we pull this into the year graph, this is not the cheapest point that the Charizard has been in the last year. The cheapest time in the market was June this year for $183 US. So it hasn't exactly got to that $180 price point. Whether or not it's going to go that low, it's unlikely, but it can happen. It just depends how collectibles are seen and what other worldly things are happening right now, because collectibles are so heavily tied to what's happening in the world and other markets as well. Now, moving on to the Blastoise from Pokemon 151, selling for $96 US. So a pretty big price drop in terms of a percentage decrease. Personally, I love this Blastoise artwork. I think it's a real cool standout. And in terms of all the cards that are in Pokemon 151, the special illustration rare roster has been pretty cool. There's a lot of fan demand for it. A lot of people love Pokemon 151, and guess what? That's why the prices of Pokemon 151, not just the singles, but in terms of the sealed product, have definitely had a lot of growth over the last 2 years. The thing, or the problem is with Pokemon 151, is that because it has such big fan demand, and because so people are like almost obsessed with this set, it's created this kind of weird polarity in the hobby, because it's almost like, hey, Pokemon 151, that's the golden set, and everything after Pokemon 151, people just always kind of retrace back to it and think it's this kind of incredible, like untouchable set. I also think it's taken so much of the spotlight from other sets, and everyone just kind of uses Pokemon 151 as a benchmark of like this amazing set and this amazing investment. Yes, 151 was a great set, and yes, it was actually a fantastic investment. And 151 was one of the last sets that we had where you could buy it easily for retail price, and there was no issues getting it on release. Since 151, I don't know if we're ever going to have a 151 again. And what I mean by that is, I don't think we're going to have a set that's as high quality as Pokemon 151, but also it's easy to get at retail price. Now, interestingly, moving on to the Japanese Pokemon 151 booster boxes, these have also came down in price as well. What's selling for $197 US, right now selling for $181. Interesting to see sealed products coming down. I do think that the Japanese 151 had the best kind of ways to make Master Ball reverse holos. Really, really unique. It was so fresh. It was exciting. If you're unaware how Master Ball Reverse Holos worked, every single Japanese 151 booster box had one guaranteed Master Ball Reverse Holo inside the set. And that's why it is an interesting set. Now, while we're on the topic of Japanese Pokemon cards, it is a good time to talk about today's video sponsor, Bai. Now, if you've tried to buy Japanese products online before, you've probably run into that annoying cannot ship to your country message. Well, Bai solves that problem instantly. Bai is a Japanese proxy shopping platform that allows you to browse, buy, and ship items straight from Japan to your home. For example, here I'm typing in Pokemon cards. Bai pulls listings from top Japanese stores in seconds. You can browse what you like, and if you do order something, then the item gets shipped to Bai's warehouse, where the item is packaged and prepared to be shipped to your doorstep. Bai also ships to multiple regions and countries, including North America, Oceania, and Europe. Honestly, with sets like Mega Dream EX and all the new Japanese releases coming in 2026, having access to these Japanese retailers is incredibly helpful. Now, the best part is that first-time users can get a 10% discount off their first order. The link and details are in the description of this video. A big thanks to Bai for supporting today's video. Now let's jump back into today's video. Now the Venusaur from Pokemon 151, selling for 90 US, right now selling for $76. Interestingly, it is now the second most expensive special illustration rare out of the 3 starter evolutions. The Blastoise and the Venusaur are always kind of competing for that second spot. Charizard is well ahead, and that's always really been the case. People just prefer Charizard, I suppose, out of the 3. You know, it's actually always interesting because I just always feel people, like the amount of people that love Charizard over Venusaur and Blastoise is massive. It's almost like Charizard, then Venusaur, Blastoise. I'm interested. Let me know in the comments whether or not, you know, you prefer Charizard, Venusaur, or Blastoise. I have a feeling though, you know, it's going to be a lot of Charizards in the comments. Now moving on to the Pikachu illustration rare, was selling for 53 US, came down to $33, and right now selling for 40 US. If I pull this into the graph, this Pikachu has had a really volatile journey. Just looking at that year snapshot there, you can really see the kind of tumultuous journey that this Pikachu's had. And the volatility of 151 singles is something that a lot of people are a bit worried about, because when I go here and you can see it was selling for $27, went all the way up to 45 US, then it kind of crashed down to $23. Then it like spiked up all the way to $52, and now we're back at 40 US. Is it gonna continue to drop? It is Pikachu, it is an illustration rare. Pikachu is the mascot of Pokemon. If you watch a lot of my videos and, you know, I speak a lot about Pokemon cards, Pikachu, Mewtwo, Charizard, Gengar, these are the Pokemon that, you know, hold their position far stronger than a lot of other Pokemon. So for that reason, it's something to consider where the price is going to go for this Pikachu in particular. Part of me feels like there is room for this to drop, though it just depends with how many people come back to 151, because that's what it kind of feels like, right? It feels like we're going to continue in this Mega Evolution era. More sets are going to come out, and then people are going to go back to 151. It's just got that kind of staying power of a set, and it does really feel like it was the Evolving Skies of Scarlet and Violet, and I do wonder what is going to be the Evolving Skies of this Mega Evolution era. A lot of people are, you know, anticipating it's going to be Ascended Heroes. I also have a feeling that Ascended Heroes is going to be one of the biggest sets we've ever had in the entire Pokemon TCG. Just going through the artworks, going through how, you know, hyped it is. There's a lot of hype building for that set. I don't like just, you know, putting hype on sets for the sake of it, but really, when I'm looking at the roster and all the illustrations in Ascended Heroes, it definitely looks like it's going to be an incredible set. Now, moving on to the Alakazam Special Illustration Rare. All the Special Illustration Rares have really taken a bit of a price tumble. Was selling for 59 US, right now selling for $43. If I pull this into the graph, again, you can see the journey 151 singles have had. Up, down, and that's why, like, when I'm buying 151 singles, I'm also very aware, and you should be aware as well, if you're buying some of these, they can go up in price, but they can come down too, man. Don't think that they can't. Selling for $42, all the way to 57 US, then it was selling for 36, then all the way up to 58, right now down to 43. So you really don't know the price of this card, because right now it's selling for $43. In 2-3 months, it can be selling for $58, and then in 4 months from there, it can also be selling for 35 US. It just, that's the thing. These kind of cards with Pokemon 151 definitely have a lot of volatility about them. Another very cool card, the Zapdos 151 Special Illustration Rare, was selling for 96 US, right now selling for $65. If I pull this into the graph, again, you can see this one's had a bit of a different journey, okay? It would look like it was really going down. Check this one out. Was selling for $63, found a low for $45, massive spike to 95 US. Right now dropping to $65. Interesting to see, right? It goes from $45, goes all the way to 100. And the thing is, when they start spiking, when Pokemon cards start spiking in that really unique point where, like you can see with that Zapdos, everyone thinks they've made the right decision. But if you've been in this game for a while, you know there's always a pretty sharp retrace as well. And that's what's happened with this Zapdos, and it just continues to happen. And that's why if you are buying kind of singles or things to invest in as collectibles, it's much better to play the long game, because it is likely that 5 years from now, it'll be like much higher than any of those high or low points that you see here. Problem is, if you're playing the short game, that's where you kind of just always see these big kind of hype movements, hype downs, downtrends, uptrends. The whole thing just is always a mess. And an interesting one, the Erikas Invitation, I'm gonna pull this into the year graph just so we can see a real big overview. This one was selling for 21 US, as you can see there, dropped down to $11. Right now selling for $15. If I pull this into the last 3 months, bit of market stability there right now. In terms of this, I do think this is a pretty great kind of special illustration rare and pretty affordable for 151 standards. And one thing you got to remember with 151, there's been a lot of product out there. There is a lot of singles out there. The only thing is there's a lot of master set collectors as well. Though, you know, if you do want to add some of these special illustration rares to your collection, it's definitely becoming a little bit of a time period where you're like, hey, maybe it is a good decision. Who knows right now? 151 is definitely in a weird journey. I think 151 has a lot of interesting opportunities that are going to come for it in the future. But right now, I would call this set a highly volatile set for singles. In terms of sealed product always is a bit of a different game. I do think that that game of like sealed product being a golden ticket will eventually start changing. And I'll explain about this more in like a future video. I want to actually talk about this because I do think sealed product isn't going to be this golden ticket to success that we've already seen, because, you know, there's some Sword and Shield booster boxes right now that are dropping quite rapidly. That didn't happen before. And I do think this game of just buy sealed and it's safe, or buy sealed and you know, you got that golden ticket, you got nothing to worry about. I do think that's going to change because there's just too many people that have entered the hobby. I will explain that more in a future video because I kind of really want to go through the data, explain it all, get it kind of up to scratch where I want to present it to all of you. Though nonetheless, you know, I'm just thinking like all these 151 singles, they're definitely in a bit of a volatile position. But as much as we're seeing some of these price drops, there's going to be some new hype waves entering in 2026, though it's important to be smart with your money when it comes to collecting during 2026. And I actually do reveal the 4 biggest money saving tips for collecting in this video on screen right here. On this video, I go deep into how to collect Pokemon cards on a budget and save money when you're involved in the hobby. If you enjoyed this video, click the video that's appearing on screen and I'll see you there.